The first special session of the 65th Legislature, Wednesday, May 17, 2023. We'll begin this morning with an opening prayer offered by Senator Sandel. Following the opening prayer, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Senator Reeby. All arise.
Our Father in heaven, as we begin this special session, we bow our heads in humility and give gratitude unto Thee for the blessings that we enjoy. We're grateful for this great land and the freedoms that we enjoy. We're grateful to be able to be assembled here as an elected body and make decisions, and pray that Thy blessings will be with us, that we might make wise and correct choices, and that we might always remember to be civil one with another. We're indeed grateful for the moisture that Thou hast blessed us with through the season, and know of the good that it will do us, and recognize Thy hand in that blessing, and pray that those that are responding to any emergency needs as we go through might be protected, that they also might be blessed in their jobs, and that property and other things can be protected as much as possible. Again, we give thanks unto Thee and recognize Thy hand and offer this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Senator Sandel and Senator Reeby. Let's go ahead with the proclamation. Madam Secretary.
Whereas since the adjournment of the 2023 General Session of the 65th Legislature of the State of Utah, certain matters have arisen which require immediate legislative attention. Whereas Article 7, Section 6 of the Constitution of the State of Utah provides that the governor may, by proclamation, convene the legislature into special session. Now, therefore, I, Spencer J. Cox, Governor of the State of Utah, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the State of Utah, do by this proclamation call the 65th Legislature of the State of Utah into a first special session at the Utah State Capitol in Salt Lake City, Utah, on the 17th day of May, 2023, at 4 p.m. for the following purposes. Number 1, to consider extending the state of emergency declared in Executive Order 2023-5. Number 2, to reallocate the fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024 budgets to address costs related to snow removal, flooding, flood response and mitigation, and other costs related to the conditions that gave rise to the state of emergency declared in Executive Order 2023-5. Number 3, to consider amendments to House Bill 225, firearm possession amendments from the 2023 General Session. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of the State of Utah, done at the Utah State Capitol in Salt Lake City, Utah, this 5th day of May, 2023. Signed, Spencer J. Cox, Governor, State of Utah, and Deidre M. Henderson, Lieutenant Governor, State of Utah. Proclamation 2023-1AS. Whereas the undersigned issued a proclamation on the 5th day of May, 2023, calling the 65th Legislature of the State of Utah into a first special session on the 17th day of May, 2023 at 4 p.m. Whereas the need has arisen to include 2 additional items of business for consideration in this first special session. Now, therefore, I, Spencer J. Cox, Governor of the State of Utah, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the State of Utah, do by this proclamation include the following additional items for action by the legislature in the first special session. Item number 4, amendments to the Division B Death Benefit in Title 49, Chapter 16, Firefighters Retirement Act, and number 5, the Senate consenting to appointments made by the governor. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of the State of Utah, done in Salt Lake City, Utah, on this 15th day of May, 2023. Signed, Spencer J. Cox, Governor, State of Utah, and Deidre M. Henderson, Lieutenant Governor, State of Utah. Further certify that the membership of the Utah State Senate has not changed of that from the first general session of the 65th Legislature.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Let's go ahead with roll call.
Senators Andrake, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Collimore. Escamilla. Fillmore. Grover. Harper. Hinkins. Ibsen.
Here.
Johnson. Kennedy. Kwan. McKay. McKell. Milner. Owens. Pitcher. Plum.
Here.
Reby. Sandal. Stevenson. Thatcher. Vickers. Weiler. Wilson. Winterton. President Adams.
Here. With 24 senators present, I'd rule we have a quorum. We have excused today Senators Andrigg, Johnson, Milner, and Thatcher. We're going to go ahead and appoint a committee led by Senator Cullimore, including Senators McKay and Plum, to join with the Light Committee from the House to notify Spencer J. Cox that the legislature is convened in the first special session and is organized and ready to receive communications. I also appoint a committee led by Senator Hinkins, along with Senator Owens and Escamilla, to notify the House of Representatives that the Senate is organized and ready to do business. I'm going to recognize a committee from the House. Why don't you go ahead, whoever's leading that committee. Let's get the whole committee in so we can see you. And I'm going to turn Senator Hinkins' mic on, and you go ahead right there.
Mr. President, we have been appointed by the Speaker of the House to inform you that the House is organized and ready to do business.
That is very good to hear. Good to have you, and appreciate that report.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for joining us. We will wait for the committee reports. Senator Hinkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have notified the House that we are ready to do business.
Thank you, Senator Hinkins, for that report. We're going to wait for the report from the committee that's waiting, notifying the governor. Senator Cullimore, good to have you back. Go ahead for your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The governor's office has been notified that the legislature is convened and ready to receive communication.
Thank you for that report, Senator. Let's go ahead with a motion from Senator Buxton. Go ahead.
I make a motion that the Senate adopt the same rules, joint rules, and interim rules adopted by the 2023 general session of the 65th legislature until the new rules may be adopted in the first special session.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the rules. Seeing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. We've adopted the rules. Now, Senator Buxton for additional.
As allowed by the Utah Constitution and the joint rules of the legislature, I move that the Senate continue to practice the practice of reading only the short titles of bills, resolutions, as they are introduced and considered on the Senate calendar, and not read the long titles of the bills, resolutions, unless a majority of the Senate directs the reading of the long titles, short titles, or both of any House or Senate bill or resolution.
Thank you. Motion to read the short titles. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I rule that motion passes by the required two-thirds majority. Now Senator Vickers for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the rules requiring placing bills on the third reading calendar, and that bills and resolutions be read the first time and placed on the second reading calendar for immediate consideration.
Thank you. Discussion of that motion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll rule that passes unanimously. Senator Cullimore for additional motion.
Thank you, President. I move that we suspend the rules and the constitutional three-reading requirement for all bills considered during the first special session.
Thank you. A motion to again suspend the rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I rule that passes by the required two-thirds majority. Let's have communications now from the governor.
Dear President Adams and members of the Senate, in accordance with Utah Code Sections 66-1-1 and 67-1-2, I propose and transmit the following appointment. To the Utah Department of Government Operations, Marvin Dodge is appointed to replace Jenny Reese as the Executive Director. I hereby certify that the individual listed in this letter meets the legal requirements for the respective position. Thank you for your timely consideration and confirmation of the above appointment. Sincerely, Spencer J. Cox, Governor.
Thank you. Let's go ahead with the committee report. Go ahead.
Dear President Adams, at its May 9th, 2023 meeting, the Senate Government Operations Confirmation Committee voted to recommend that the Utah Senate approve the appointment of Marvin Dodge as the Executive Director of the Utah Department of Government Operations. Sincerely, Senator Daniel W. Thatcher, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Winterton for a motion.
Yes, I move that the Senate vote to consent to the appointment of Marvin Dodge as an Executive Director of the Utah Department of Governmental Operations.
Thank you. We have a motion before us. Do we have any discussion to that motion? Seeing no discussion, let's go ahead. Roll call vote.
Senators Andrake. Bluen. Bramble. Buxton. Cullimore. Escamilla. Fillmore. Grover. Harper. Hinkins. Ipson.
Aye.
Johnson. Kennedy. Kwan. McKay. McKell. Milner. Owens. Pitcher. Plum. Reeby. Sandel. Stevenson. Thatcher. Vickers. Weiler. Wilson. Winterton. President Adams.
Aye. With a vote of 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, the Senate has consented to the appointment of Marvin Dodge as the Executive Director of the Utah Department of Government Operations. Congratulations. Let's go ahead and have you stand. I recognize you. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you being in the chamber and being with us, and we look forward to great things. So again, thank you for your service. Let's go ahead with additional communications from the governor.
Dear President Adams and members of the Senate, in accordance with Utah Code Sections 67-1-1 and 67-1-2, I propose and transmit the following appointments. To the Board of Aging and Adult Services, Cindy Turnquist is appointed to replace Sharon Ott. To the Purchasing from Persons with Disabilities Advisory Board, Alana Parslow is appointed to replace Brian Adams. To the Salt Lake Community College Board of Trustees, Coralie Alder is reappointed. Nate Boyer is reappointed. To the Southwest Technical College Board of Trustees, Paul Terry is appointed to replace Daniel Stewart. Melinda Bunstein is appointed to replace Michael Evans. To the Utah Indigent Defense Commission, Casey Hopes is appointed to replace Sean Milne. To the Utah Tax Commission, Rebecca L. Rockwell is reappointed. To the Utah Tech University Board of Trustees, Colleen Kvetko is reappointed. Mitchell Cloward is reappointed. Richard Holmes is appointed to replace Larry Bergson. I hereby certify that the individuals listed in this letter meet the legal requirements for their respective positions. Thank you for your timely consideration and confirmation of the above appointments. Sincerely, Spencer J. Cox, Governor.
Thank you. I think we have some committee reports. Go ahead.
Mr. President, the Senate Health and Human Services Confirmation Committee reports a favorable recommendation for the appointment of Cindy Turnquist as a member of the Board of Aging and Adult Services. Respectful, Senator Michael S. Kennedy, Committee Chair. Dear President Adams, the Senate Government Operations Confirmation Committee voted to recommend that the Utah Senate approve the appointment of Alana Parslow as a member of the Purchasing from Persons with Disabilities Advisory Board. Sincerely, Senator Daniel W. Thatcher, Chair. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Confirmation Committee reports a favorable recommendation for Casey Hopes to be confirmed as a member of the Utah Indigent Defense Commission. Respectfully, Senator Michael S. Kennedy, Committee Chair. Mr. President, the Senate Revenue and Taxation Confirmation Committee reports a favorable recommendation for the reappointment of Rebecca L. Rockwell as a Commissioner of the State Tax Commission. Respectfully, Senator Daniel McKay, Committee Chair. Mr. President, the Senate Education Confirmation Committee reports favorable recommendations for the appointments of Colleen Kvetko, Mitchell Cloward, and Richard Holmes as members of the Utah Tech University Board of Trustees. Sincerely, Senator Lincoln Fillmore, Committee Chair.
Thank you. Senator Bramble for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the nominees be confirmed as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have any further committee reports or discussion? Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Health and Human Services Confirmation Committee met and enjoyed a visit with Cindy Turnquist as an appointee to the Board of Aging and Adult Services, found her to be a delightful and highly qualified candidate. And if I may proceed on, as we also on the Judiciary Confirmation Committee met with Casey Hopes and found him to be an outstanding servant for the Indigent Defense Commission and recommended both highly to this body for those considerations. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Further reports. Senator McKay.
Thank you, President. It is without equivocation that the Rev and Tax Committee in the Senate the Confirmation Committee is proud, actually, to support the nomination and the approval of Commissioner Rebecca Rockwell. Her career has been highlighted with adding value to the state of Utah in so many ways. First, in her service to the legislature, which I will argue is probably the better portion of her service thus far.
Hey, careful.
She served as a drafting attorney, and then she took those skills to the Tax Commission, where she has proved, by merit and by skill, to be both a competent attorney, to be a fair adjudicator, and to be a great manager. And I think all of those things were testified to in our hearing, and I'm really grateful to be here for her renomination. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Senator Fillmore.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The Education Confirmation Committee met, and we met all three applicants for appointment and reappointment to the Utah Tech Board of Trustees and recommended all three.
Thank you. Any further reports? Seeing none. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and place the motion. And the motion is, shall the Senate consent to the appointments as read by the Senate staff? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrake, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Colomore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens. Pitcher. Plum. Reby. Sandal. Stevenson.
Pitcher, aye.
Thatcher. Vickers. Weiler. Wilson. Winterton. President Adams.
Aye. With a vote of 25 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 4 being absent, the Senate has consented to the governor's appointments. Let's congratulate all of them, if you will. Why don't you stand? We see so many of you, both in the wings. Commissioner Rockwell, go ahead, let's stand. And again, we appreciate your service to the state. We talk many times about Utah being the best state in the nation, and it's because of the great citizens, but also the great public servants and the great things you do. We as a legislature like to take credit for a lot of your work, so keep it up, will you? And we'll keep taking the credit. So thank you for your service. Do we have communications from the House yet? We don't. So I'm going to take a moment here, if I could. It's just a personal privilege. You up here with me on the dais is Lizzie Klinker, and she's been my administrative assistant. Been very difficult for me to function at all without her. She's taken on some new assignments and going to be leaving us, and I'd like you to join with me and recognizing Lizzie for her great work and wishing her well. Stand up, Lizzie. Let's, if you would, join with me. She's, again, one of those, yeah. It will be tough on me to see her go, but thank you for the great service, and thank you, Senator Sandal. I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
Can we vote on that?
Yeah, if
I'd love
it's a special
roll
session.
call
Anything's open,
vote
so
on
I'll
that.
take a bill file real quick. Okay, I share those sentiments with you. So, okay. I'm going to take another personal privilege, if I could, and I'd like 2 people to stand, if they would. Fallon Flowers, right here in front. If you would, Fallon, stand up. And Bella Durham, over here. Bella. Fallon's taken on the new role as Secretary of the Senate, and Bella's taking on a new role as a legislative assistant. So let's welcome them to the Senate, new people, and we're excited to have them here. So thank you. There are always changes and exciting things and difficult things, but again, appreciate the great service of the great staff we do have, in my opinion, in the Senate and elsewhere in the state, the greatest staff anywhere in the United States. So thank you for the great service. And so we're waiting for the House, so let's take, I know they're voting from what I'm understanding, so I'm going to oh my heavens, I just got another note here. Kendley, stand up, will you? This is your last day. So, no, last session, okay? I'm getting all kinds of still small voices, and I'm trying to listen to them. But let's recognize Kendley, because this is her last session, too. So, really, Senator Sandal, you want to add that to your bill and your motion to keep her? Yeah, thank you. So.
No, roll call vote.
Yeah, we'll have a roll call vote here, so you can tell the dissent in the body here, so we need order. But Kendley, you'll be greatly missed, and thank you for all the service you've offered. And you know what you've done for the great state. So, Senator Harper, are you up to speak, or do you, okay, just checking. Trying to keep order here, but again, tough to see these changes, so I've been excited to see the new people come, so, and yeah. And hold it down on the back row. Thank you. If I could, I'm just noticing, and I probably should have paid, Senator Valentine, Commissioner Valentine, trying to leave the chamber without being recognized, but I looked over there and I just failed to recognize you, but it's always great to have a former Senate president back here. Appreciate the great work of the commission, and I would echo Senator McKay's comment about not only Commissioner Rockwell, but the entire Tax Commission. So again, let's recognize Senator Valentine here with us, former president, a great friend, and another great public servant. So thank you for being with us. It's always great to have you back in the chamber. Thank you. You couldn't get away that easy. Yeah, Michael Cragen's there too. Okay, we ready? Okay. Do we have the bill yet? They're probably missing you. We'll have patience. Give her a big smile. Looks like we have some communications from the House. Let's go ahead, Madam Secretary, with communications from the House.
Mr. President, the House passed a substituted First Sub HJR 101 joint resolution extending emergency powers for flood mitigation and infrastructure rehabilitation by Representative Schultz, and it is transmitted for consideration.
Thank you. That bill will be placed on the second reading calendar as read. So let's wait for it to be placed on the second reading calendar. First substitute House Joint Resolution 1, is it 101 or 1001? I'm showing 101. First substitute House Joint Resolution 101.
First substitute House Joint Resolution 101. Joint resolution extending emergency powers for flood mitigation and infrastructure rehabilitation. Senator Vickers.
Senator Vickers. Okay, we'll wait a minute.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Senator Vickers.
So if you remember, a couple of sessions ago, we passed SB 195 when we did a revamp of our emergency powers legislation and re-looked at that whole section. And quite frankly, this is that bill playing out. And so the governor, looking at what was going on with our flooding and realizing that we needed to declare an emergency so we'd have access not only to our own funds, but if there were any federal funds, but primarily to utilize our own funds for flood mitigation and flood rehabilitation, declared the first 30 days. And so as it plays out, then the legislature has some choices. And the choices are that we can do nothing and let it lapse. We can proactively sunset it, or we can proactively extend it. And so then if you look at the extension options, so you can extend it for any period of time. You're not tied to just an additional 30 days. The request is that we extend it to August 15th. Now, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is obviously we want to get through the potential flood season, which actually August 15th is probably most likely past that. But at the same token, we don't have any kind of a session that we could do in July. So if we extended it for 30 or 60 days and needed to extend again, we wouldn't really have a vehicle that would be cost effective to come back into session and do a special session to extend it. So the recommendation is that we make the extension to August 15th. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
Senator, thank you for that presentation. Looking for any discussion on the resolution. Senator Vickers, there is no discussion, so any summation or a motion?
I would waive summation under suspension of the rules, move that first substitute House Joint Resolution 101 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall first substitute House Joint Resolution 101 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrake, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Collimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher,
Aye.
Plum, Reby, Sandal, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers,
Aye.
Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. First substitute House Joint Resolution 101, having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, passes this body and will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. I think we have further communications now from the House.
Mr. President, the House passed HB 1001, Emergency Response Funding by Representative V. Peterson, and it is transmitted for consideration.
Thank you. This bill, having been read a first time, will be placed on the second reading calendar. Wait for it to be on the calendar. There it is, House Bill 1001.
House Bill 1001, Emergency Response Funding, Senator Stevenson.
Senator Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill reallocates $30 million from other areas of the budget to flood response. It appropriates an additional $3 million from a restricted account for the same purpose. Items 1 and 4 of the bill move $5 million one-time general fund appropriations in the current fiscal year, 2023, from wildfire suppression to emergency management for state and local infrastructure improvements related to flooding. It requires the Division of Emergency Management to report to us on how they will spend the money before committing it. Items 6 and 7 move an additional $5 million one-time from the general fund for fiscal year 2024, again requiring reporting to EAC before they move forward. Items 2 and 3 move $20 million in one-time transportation fund appropriations from highway construction to maintenance for incurred snow and mudslide removal costs, as well as other costs related to winter or to weather. I guess it would be winter weather would maybe be the right statement there. Finally, item 5 adds $3 million one time from the state disaster recovery restricted account to an existing $7 million in emergency management budget for a total of $10 million over 2 years. This money is for state costs related to the flood emergency. EAC approved the first $5 million of that yesterday, and DPS must return to EAC for authorization for the second $5 million at a later date. In total, that's potentially $40 million in resources directed to flood, in addition to the $5 million we approved during the general session, but only $3 million that is new money. The remainder comes from reductions in other areas of the budget and existing program balance. Let me add before I take questions, in the past 2 general sessions, we've deposited more than $100 million in wildfire suppression fund, $49 million in one time and in 23, and $45 million one time plus $10 million ongoing in fiscal year 24. A high fire year costs us about $25 million. And the average fire year is about $10 million. So there's adequate funding there. We basically use this as a savings account. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Senator Stevenson. We continue to manage our affairs very well. Seeing no discussion on your bill, I'm going to go back to you for any summation, and if not, a motion, Senator.
I would waive summation. I think this has been pretty straightforward, and I would move that under suspension of the rules that House Bill 1001 pass.
Thank you, and the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 1001 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrade, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Collimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen,
Aye.
Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 1001, having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, passes this body and will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Do we have further communication from the House? Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
Mr. President, the House passed HB 1002 Restricted Persons Amendments by Representative Wilcox, and it is transmitted for consideration.
Thank you. That bill, having been read a first time, will be placed on the second reading calendar. There we go. Let me call the bill, House Bill 1002.
House Bill 1002, Restricted Persons Amendments. Senator Weiler.
Senator Weiler.
Mr. President. This is an amendment to a good bill from last session that was really geared towards school safety, but it had some inadvertent restrictions in there regarding people who are here in our country who are not citizens and who have been admitted to our country on a non-immigrant visa. It prevented them from possessing or owning a gun, and there was an assumption during the session that the provision that we're now repealing was aligning the state of Utah with the federal law, but we have since learned that that's not the case. So the changes made in House Bill 1002 simply move the gun and weapon provisions back to what they were before May 3rd. The major change is if you have a student who's here on a student visa, or if you have a professional who's here on a work visa, they will be able to possess a firearm as long as they're in compliance with federal law, which often requires them just to have a hunting permit. But I think that the bill went much further than the House sponsor intended it to, so this is more of a correction. And with that, I'll yield to any questions.
Thank you, Senator Weiler. There are no questions. Summation and a motion.
I'll waive summation and move under suspension of the rules that House Bill 1002 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 1002 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrake, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Collimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McCall, Melner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 1002, having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Further communications from the, we'll wait for further communications from the House. Now, communications from the House.
Mr. President, the House passed HB 1003 firefighter death benefit amendments by Representative Snyder, and it is transmitted for consideration.
Thank you. That bill, having been read a first time, will be placed on the second reading calendar for consideration. House Bill 1003.
House Bill 1003, Firefighter Death Benefit Amendments, Senator Harper.
Senator Harper.
Thank you. In 2018, the legislature passed Senate Bill 21 that went through and clarified retirement benefits for non-line of duty Tier 1 police officers and firefighters that have more than 20 years of service. There was an omission in that bill. In the bill, the language, the clarification was put in Division A and B for the public safety police officers, but only inserted into Division A firefighters. This bill simply goes through and takes the language that are in those other 3 sections, put it into Division B, so that all firefighters and police officers are treated the same post-retirement, non-line of duty death benefit.
Senator, thank you for that presentation. Looks like we have some discussion to this bill. Senator Weiler.
Thank you. I rise in support. I just had one clarifying question, if the sponsor will yield.
Senator Harper, will you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead, Senator Weiler.
So I understand, unfortunately, we just had a firefighter who passed away. I just want to make sure that the language of this bill is retroactive enough that it's going to cover that family.
Senator Harper.
Yes, this goes through and falls into the time frame that the applicant needs to file within the 90 days. So if we pass it now, it will cover that existing singular situation plus any future that may come up.
All right, I think that's appropriate. I'll be voting aye. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Weiler. Further discussion? Senator Harper, I don't see any. To you for summation and a motion.
Thank you. I would waive summation and move that House Bill 1003 pass under suspension of the rules.
Yeah, and the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 1003 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrake, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Collimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper,
Aye.
Hinkins, Ibsen,
Aye.
Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 1003, having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. I think that concludes our work, so I'm going to go ahead and appoint a committee led by Senator Cullimore, including Senators McKay, Plum, and Plum, to notify the governor that the Senate has concluded its business and is ready to adjourn. Signed, aye. I'll appoint another committee, again led by Senator Hinkins, Senator Owens, and Escamilla, to notify the House of Representatives that the Senate has concluded its business and is ready to adjourn. Signed, aye. We'll wait for those committee reports.
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Senator.
Point of personal inquiry.
Go ahead. Granted.
If we delay a little bit longer, can we get dinner brought in?
I don't think I heard that, so
Okay,
anyway.
all right. I'll withdraw the question.
Thank you. Senator Hinkins, go ahead for a report. Or Senator Owens, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have reported, we're reporting that the House has been notified that the business of the Senate has concluded and that the Senate is ready to adjourn, sine die.
Thank you. Looks like we have, thank you for that report. Looks like we have a group from the House. Let me turn on that mic right back there. Go ahead. Hold it. That mic is, go to the mic next to it, will you? That one's on a remote, so there we go. That one will work.
Thank you, President. We have been appointed by the Speaker of the House to inform you that the House is ready to adjourn, sine die.
We appreciate that report. Thank you for being here. Senator Weiler, we hope that the committee waiting on the governor did not go out for dinner. It would be nice to have a quorum to adjourn. We got 3 coming back.
I'll have to show you sometime, Don. Hey, I'm here. Don't count me out. There he is.
Here we go. Senator Cullimore for a report.
Thank you, President. The governor has been notified that the Senate has concluded its business.
Thank you for that report. I'm going to go to Senator Vickers now for a final motion. Senator Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion that the Senate adjourn, sine die.
We have a motion to adjourn, sine die. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. The Senate is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.